Welcome everybody to Spinebuster. This is Derek. This is
Ken.
And this is season 2 of Spinebuster, episode numero uno.
That's right. We've made it to season 2, folks, and some of you guys might be a little confused, thinking, well, where's season 1? For, those who didn't watch season 1 or listen to season 1, what were you doing with your lives?
How did you make it this
Man,
long?
I know I couldn't have made it without season 1.
Those 4 episodes of pure beauty.
That's right. So we did a whole segment on an episode about shark cages. I mean, come on. This is huge. Which, out of the context of wrestling, sounds really weird. But this is a show about wrestling, so,
It is.
Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about today. And,
every day.
And every day. Every recording we do is going to be focusing on something that both of us love, something we both hold near and dear to our hearts, and that is the world of professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling.
Yeah.
This is that part where I just repeat what you say.
Sure. We'll do that a time or two, so be wary of that.
Or 12.
Possibly more than that. Professional wrestling, though, yeah. Sports entertainment, if you're in that mindset, in that universe, if you will. Yeah.
No comment.
No comment. We are here to talk about professional wrestling. We're here to talk about
My sunglasses falling.
Derek losing his sunglasses. And as you guys can tell, this is unedited. This is uncut. It's
uncensored.
That's right. It's not raw, but
not raw.
No,
not raw.
We never raw. But we are
always cooked thoroughly.
Completely. We don't want to get salmonella.
Who wants salmonella?
No one. Nobody. It's a funny thing. There's a lot of things people debate about nowadays, right? You see it all the time on Facebook and the news, but nobody likes salmonella.
Nobody. We can all agree on that.
We should unify the world in a distaste of salmonella.
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, someone's got to do it, right? So why not salmonella? But anyway, we're here today to talk about some wrestling, and something we're planning on doing on this show, as we've done in the past, for those who heard season 1. We are going to cover not only today's wrestling, but a lot of the past as well. Something that we kind of hold a little dearer than the current wrestling product is our stuff from the past. And matter of fact, the man to my left here, possibly right, if you're
depending
on your orientation here on the camera, actually got me into wrestling back in the 90s, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there. And due to the magic of the internet and various streaming services and other things, we've broadened our horizons. We've seen stuff from, all the way back to the 60s, 70s, and all the way up till today.
Dudes like Lou Thez and Bruno Sammartino, who previously we would not have known anything about, except for that Bruno was that brief stint at WrestleMania where he was managing his son David.
There was that, yeah.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah, WrestleMania will come up with this video at some juncture, maybe not today. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Some of those older wrestlers, I grew up hearing from my dad the wrestling of, yesteryear, the old Midwestern territories and such, hearing names like Bobby Heenan, who was a wrestler at the time, not a manager. Pretty Boy Bobby Heenan was his name. Hearing names like Dick the Bruiser, guys who have basically trained a lot of the generation nowadays. That we know their names because of their legacies, but
Dick the Bruiser. Did you say him?
That's who I just said.
Bobo Brazil.
Bobo Brazil.
That was another one. That was the one. I was busy opening my beer.
I saw that.
Dick
So there
the
you go.
I was focused on the pop.
I get that. Sailor Art Thomas, one of my favorite names of yesteryear. Yeah, it's a great name, isn't it? Sailor Art Thomas.
Sailor Art. I hope his gimmick was similar to that of Tugboat.
It kind of was. He was actually,
or was he Popeye the Sailor Man? Did he come to the ring with his can of spinach?
He was Heidenreich,
Yeah.
2003, whatever that was. Yeah, or 2005. Yeah.
Heidenreich will not make many shows.
Not too many. We have a Heidenreich reference already. We've yet to mention anyone who's actually,
relevant.
Good. Yeah.
Well, we did mention Bruno.
Well, that's true.
We mentioned some good guys.
Possibly the greatest of all time. But really on this show, we want to focus on more good. We'll talk about some bad too, of course, because, it's wrestling.
And it's fun.
But we are going to talk about a lot of good. Matter of fact, we may talk about some Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, a common reoccurring theme that you'll run into through our show throughout the ages and eons to come, because
this show will be on for eons.
Eons.
We've already got it planned out.
Yeah. I will have a robot me. It's going to be a robot Ken.
Season 5,000.
Oh, yeah. We can go that long.
Just you wait.
I have on my Facebook page, and I started it several years ago, a little thing called the Hall of Fame, because of my disdain for the WWE's Hall of Fame.
WWE.
Because they were doing stupid things like inducting Coco Beware and, you know, guys of that nature who haven't done a lick of anything.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, guys like Randy Savage were not in.
Right, at the time, yeah.
At the time. Ultimate Warrior, at the time, not in. Granted, he's also not in on my Facebook page. Personal reasons.
But still.
We have irreconcilable differences.
But above Coco Beware, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coco would also not be on the list.
And to that point, there are still guys who aren't in to this day for, you know, a lot of times it is personal differences. But it just got brought up in the last Hall of Fame about, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. You know, guys like the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, gosh, heck, the British Bulldogs tag team, you know, as a whole.
Yeah.
Demolition, who, like, at one point weren't wanting to be in the Hall of Fame, and now they're just kind of wondering why not. And there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different, you know, just great athletes, great storytellers throughout the years who still aren't in that Hall of Fame.
So the best thing about our Hall of Fame, the Spinebuster Hall of Fame, if you will, is the fact that there's no political BS behind it.
That's right.
It's just guys that we love, we respected, and we want to honor them, even if WWE doesn't want to.
That's right. Absolutely. So, you know, we're going to hope to entertain you guys with some of that as well. Hopefully, you know, foster some memories for you, some of these guys, even if they're guys that, you know, you haven't seen a whole lot of. We were noticing that a lot with doing some research today for the first guy we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame, someone who neither one of us really saw at the beginning of his career.
Nope. But
we were both able to pick up on him later on, and gosh, we're glad we did, you know. Guy is definitely a true Hall of Famer, even if he's not currently in the WWE Hall of Fame, which should be.
Should have been. Shame on you.
Yes,
shame
indeed.
on you, WWE.
You will see his autograph picture right here in front of us here. And that is, you know, with that said, I think it's time.
I think it's time. Oh, it's time. It's Vader time.
The man they call Vader is
Big Van Vader.
Big Van Vader. First man we want to talk about today, Vader. Gosh, Vader. What can you say about Vader?
He big.
He big.
He big.
Dude. He's a big dude. 400 to 450 pound man, legit 400 pounder. Just one of the best athletes you'll ever see for his size, and we're going to get into more detail with that as we go on. But you hear a lot about, you know, and unfortunately, you know, Vader having just passed away this last week. This is timely, I guess, in that way that, you know, we get to talk about him. I'd much rather be talking about him, you know, under better circumstances, of course. But it's amazing right now how much you're hearing about his legacy from other wrestlers, from, you know, wrestling personalities, other athletes, actors, people, you know, because Vader he wasn't just a wrestler. He was a fighter. He was a football player. He was an actor. He did lots of different roles in his life, and I think it's so cool that, you know, we get to talk about him now because we got to see him in those different roles. And
you did. I totally remember watching him on Boy Meets World.
Absolutely. Oh, we're going to talk about that. You bet. Yes, indeed. You know, it's really neat to see a guy who transcends the business, so to speak, that way.
And it doesn't happen often. There's a lot of guys who've been in the business, and not a lot of them have gotten, you know, those accolades outside of the ring, if you will.
That's true. Yep, we see it. You know, you see it more in like Mexico and stuff. You know, back in the day, you saw a lot of that. You know, but yeah, in the U.S. it's pretty rare. You know, you see guys being like stunt workers and stuff. You know, and appearing in various things. So I was just looking up Brian Clark earlier today. Adam Bomb, Wrath. He's, I guess, doing, you know, film stuff now, and that's where he's at nowadays.
Didn't expect that one.
No, I know that. I didn't think that would come up. But yeah, we see, you know, a guy like Vader who was himself in his roles on TV too, which was pretty interesting. And you couldn't hide that guy. He just was himself, you know. Reminds me of someone we'll probably talk about in the future, King Kong Bundy, when he would appear on shows. You know, he appeared on Married with Children and some other stuff. You couldn't hide King Kong Bundy. You couldn't play another role. He just was King Kong Bundy. That's who he was. And Vader very similar in that way.
Yeah.
So, Vader had a heck of a career, wouldn't you say?
I would definitely say so. And I guess we should start with his football career.
Yeah.
If we're going to start with the man they call Vader.
Most definitely.
You know,
he was in the NFL, right?
He was. Mm-hmm. He played for the University of Colorado.
Okay.
He was drafted to the NFL in, like, what was that, like In 97.
97.
In 1977.
Yes, 1997, yeah.
Vader was awesome. I mean, he was wrestling and playing football at the same time.
That's right. He was in college football.
He was
at the age of 40.
Yeah. You know, it was a special program where they let some of the senior citizens stay back a few years. He still had some years of eligibility.
40-year-old college student.
He's a redshirt freshman.
No wonder he went to the Super Bowl.
But yeah, so he was drafted by who was that team that drafted him? It wasn't the Rams.
He
ended up on the Rams.
He ended up on the Rams because he played in the Super Bowl for the Rams, right?
Yeah.
And
he was drafted by somebody.
Yeah, I'm forgetting off the top of my head. He was.
Oh, it says he was drafted by the Rams.
Oh, yeah, the handy dandy sheet.
I do have the handy.
Sheet.
Yeah, I do have the handy dandy sheet up.
Cool.
I didn't think he was drafted by the Rams, but it says it, so I'm not going to doubt Wikipedia.
Absolutely, the great source that is Wikipedia.
Yeah.
You know, any students of mine who are watching this, do not use Wikipedia as a source. That is against the rules.
I always get on my son about using Wikipedia.
You know, and your son is how old?
He is 16.
So if he can figure it out at 16, you
15.
can figure it out.
15.
Derek's son is somewhere below
15.
your age, so you watching this
Around. He just had a birthday. I need a little bit of break.
He's
I've
old.
had a beer and a
There you go.
8.
Anyway, back to Vader. Vader, yeah, he played in the Super Bowl, actually. A lot of people don't know that. He played in Super Bowl 14. Right?
Yep, against the Steelers.
Steelers, which they got walloped in that Super
They
Bowl, as
lost.
I recall. It was
It was bad.
It was not good. That was the Los Angeles Rams at the time, who now are again. And that was their...
Together again.
Yeah, they found their way back to LA, you know. And they're good again, so, you know. As of the time of this recording, they're good. We can't guarantee if you watch this in the future, they will be again.
Maybe when the season starts, maybe they won't be good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
As of right now.
Right now,
they just,
June 26, 2018.
That's right.
They good.
They good. So, after football, then he got involved, as many do. Just got kind of noticed out in the gyms for being a huge guy, huge lineman. And I don't know if he was necessarily 450 pounds at the time, but he was
a center.
He was a center.
He was a big guy.
But he got he got noticed, and he got brought into the AWA actually in its dying days, basically, and was able to really turn that into a very long career, both nationally and internationally, which was really cool. So, you know, one thing, internationally speaking, just to kind of go to that, because really that's where Vader...
That's where he really became
big, you know? And Vader, actually, the gimmick of Vader was based, I believe, on a Japanese character, if I remember correctly, some folklore character. That's where that name came from and where that character came from.
Is that where the giant mask came from?
Roughly. I mean, in Japanese culture, of course, you know, there's a lot of, you know, fear back then. We're talking the 80s here. This would have been... you know, the era of your, after all your movie monsters, all your, you know, monsters, you know, yokai and stuff, all that in Japanese culture is huge. And your big hulking colossuses, I mean, that gets over anywhere, but you know, over in Japan in particular, he was in Europe for a while and then went to Japan. And he hit it big there. He hit it big in Japan. I believe it was another great big man, Giant Baba, who
I've heard that name.
He is the founder of All Japan Pro Wrestling. And
Little tidbit.
Yeah.
I don't do the Japanese wrestling. I don't know much about the Japanese wrestling. So whatever he says, we're just gonna go with it.
So Giant Baba,
He
for all you guys,
he could tell me Vader fought a giant toilet, and I'd be like, oh really?
You know,
Wow, that's interesting. I gotta see that.
That would have been over in DDT, is where they'd have that match. That is, we'll watch some DDT when you get a chance. That's the craziest stuff you'll ever see. But anyway, the Big Man Vader came about as a result of that. Giant Baba actually sent him to New Japan Pro Wrestling, out of All Japan, and I believe I have that timeline right. And he had probably the biggest, you know, audience and the biggest success of his career there. And it's interesting nowadays that we're seeing, you know, a rise of Japanese wrestling again in the U.S. and popularity and such.
Some of us.
Some of us. Back then, though, you couldn't really watch it. You know, you weren't really able to see it. You know, neither of us had any clue he existed at the time. You know,
No.
But it's cool now getting to watch that old Japan stuff. NGPW World is a great resource for that, and the internet.
I am a subscriber to that.
Well, there you go.
Not that I watch it, but
someday you may watch it.
I'm supporting
That's
that.
right.
I am supporting that.
Vader just took off there. The guy was a 3-time IWGP champion, and he was the first ever, fun fact, first non-Japanese gaijin to win the title.
Oh, so he did.
First ever. Yep.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Literally the only thing I know about Vader
Yep.
from NJPW was the match with Stan Hansen.
Which one? Yeah, he had several.
The one where his eyeball pops out.
Yes, the eyeball.
The one where his eyeball pops out, and like it's like a 25-minute match or just under, and it's like a draw. But yeah, they're just like beating the holy bejeebies out of each other. And
he popped his eye back in, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
yeah. He did. I didn't even get to see exactly when the eyeball pops out.
Yeah.
The YouTube video I was watching apparently wasn't the entire match. Because 1 minute he's wearing his black mask before he got the thinner red one that most people are familiar with. And then suddenly like it's off and his eye is like huge.
Yeah.
And so it must have. I'm assuming it was the knee from the second rope or whatever that Stan Hansen brought down.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I think Stan accidentally put his thumb in his eye.
Oh, thumb. Yeah, I read it was his thumb.
It just sounds painful even talking about it, so I apologize to our viewers there. But wrestling, you know. So that happened, but Vader, the tough guy he is, puts his own eye back in and continues the match.
They were just watching, like you could hear like every chop, every punch, and it just looks like they were just sitting there giving each other everything, not taking anything off.
Absolutely.
Because
side eyeballs. Yeah.
But they were putting those back in.
They were putting those back in at least, yeah.
But back then, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think back then, like especially with the Japanese wrestling, it all felt very real to all of them, and they went to great lengths to make sure that it looked and felt even more real than what we were doing in the States.
Absolutely.
Because at that time, in the States, it was still real to us, damn it.
Yeah. It was,
but it was even more real in Japan.
Definitely. That was the, late 80s, early 90s, and you figure, I mean, that's the Hulkamania era, as we know it here in the U.S., for us. Sort of the dying days of it, really, and some, unless you ask Hulk, but,
Yeah, keep going. I'm just
okay then.
Do the pose down for the peeps.
Yeah, So we have we had Hulk Hogan here over in Japan, which I mean Hogan was there for a little bit too, but the brawls, just the fights they had there, it did feel real. And you watch that now, it still holds up to this day. And what gets me, we'll talk about this more later with some of our favorite Vader matches and stuff. This kind of goes for a lot of the ones I'm going to talk about, where the crowds are so invested in it.
Absolutely.
It's incredible, It's like they're watching, a boxing match, nowadays it's the best thing I compare, or an MMA match now would be the best comparison I can make.
Probably.
Where, the crowds are so into it, they have that feeling of reality to it, even though it's a scripted match, the crowds didn't really, I don't know if they necessarily knew that, or if they did know it, they just didn't care. It was such an adventure to watch, and a lot of those old Vader matches are that way. Plus, he fought some really incredible competition back then too.
I think in the E, the fans were also like into wrestling that way though. Like they're not like today's fans. Today's fans suck. Today's fans, they go to the show and like it's all about what chant they can get over.
Right, getting themselves over.
And I didn't realize how big of a detriment it had become to the business until I went back and I watched some of these matches, Sting versus Vader, when Vader wins the WCW for the title for the first time.
Yep.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're gonna get there, yeah.
But like just that crowd reaction, the fact that like they all were like happy like during the match when Sting was doing well and all that other stuff, and like now like that doesn't happen.
It's like almost and I mean this
unless Roman Reigns loses.
Right, then they're super happy.
Then they're super happy.
But it's almost, and I guess this is getting off on a tangent, but I think it's worth talking about, is with today's wrestling, it's almost uncool to get into it, if that makes any sense. Like, and I don't mean get into it like, get your chants going and, just enjoy the match, that's fine. But when you really, I guess if you're not a part of that, I don't know what you can call it, that crowd, that scene, that, let's make silly chants and let's, not pay attention to what's actually going on in the ring, but, we'll cheer for the Velveteen Dream, just because, and stuff. I'm just going to pick on Velveteen Dream for a second. You don't come across as being the same kind of fan, I guess is what it is, so you're kind of out of the loop on it, and you're like this weird wrestling fan outcast. I mean, we're wrestling fans, we're outcasts to begin with, but you get an outcast within your own, pool. It's kind of weird how that works nowadays.
Yeah.
Where back then, everybody was into it,
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. You go to like '93, WrestleMania 9 or something. You got people booing Hulk Hogan. I mean, that's a little, that's a little different kind of thing, But back then it was starting to shift that way. But now it's, it's been that way for years. We all know what's going on with
You don't boo Hulk Hogan.
Unless he's Hollywood Hulk.
Brother!
Unless he's Hollywood Hulk Hogan, then you boo him.
No, you still don't boo.
It's NWO. You boo the heels. You boo who you boo, and you cheer who you cheer. Unless you're in Toronto, right? After WrestleMania. Anyway, we're getting off on a tangent here. So, Vader. Tell me more about Vader. so Vader's in Japan.
He's in Japan.
He's in Japan. He
won that title you said he won.
3 times he did, and then...
He won it 3 times?
3 times he
Jeez,
did.
He
didn't hold it for very long. He had 2 reigns that were pretty long and one that was really short, but he had just all kinds of success with that. He fought some guys who are in the WWE Hall of Fame. He, I believe, lost his last title to Fujinami, I believe, if I remember correctly. So that was
Tatsumi
Fujinami.
Look,
that's right.
Look at me dropping some bam.
Derek's learning Japanese here as we go. So
yeah,
there we are. So we end up with Vader then coming to going a couple other places first, but his next big stop.
We'll fast forward to the stuff that matters.
Sorry, UWA. So
you don't matter. You don't matter, UWA.
He did win the.
You ain't nothing. You ain't nothing, UWA.
He did win the world title in the UWA as well, but you know. Anyway, WCW.
WCW.
Talk about WCW a little bit. So that was the first time I heard of Vader. Although at the time I didn't watch WCW. He came there in 1990, I do believe, 1991.
Didn't he team with Ric Flair in WCW at some point?
He did at some point. They were kind of loosely.
I think I might remember
aligned.
That.
Yeah,
that might actually be my first Vader memory.
Yeah, they were loosely aligned, and then later on they had a rather large feud over the title as well. So, but again, we'll get to that. But no, when he first came in, they made WCW. They get a lot of flack, but they made a heck of a decision with him by pairing him with a manager, none other than the King Harley Race.
King Harley Race.
My goodness, what a pair that was! These guys, Harley Race, one of the toughest guys in wrestling. It's like his whole demeanor is that. The guy was just rock solid, and you put him with Vader, and Vader makes him look like he's nothing. Which at that time Race was retired basically from active competition, but.
Race was no small man.
He was not at all.
Race was no small man.
Race was a huge dude, and Vader made him look like he was,
an average guy.
Yeah, an average guy. They made him look like he was me or Derek, and just with muscles. But he was, he had tattoos though. He did that, so
he did that.
Harley Race had the tattoos.
Close to the same area. They maybe down a little bit more. But,
the King Harley Race. But anyway, they ended up just dominating WCW, and that was the first time I had heard of them. The aforementioned match with Sting, where he won the title from Sting, which at the time Sting was huge.
Oh, Sting was like
just regardless. I mean, he was pretty well always, other than the Goldberg era, their WCW's biggest star, and and Flair, of course, go back to the NWA days, but you know what I mean, in between there, and he just came in and just killed Sting, got it going. He ended up having that title 3 times as well, I do believe.
Yeah.
Correctly.
Yeah, the first time was short. He had to drop. He had to drop it to Ron Simmons because he actually hurt himself in the Sting match.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Which may be the reason why that horrible Vader powerbomb on Sting. That looked brutal. Did you?
I have seen that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
First of all, normally when you do a powerbomb, you get them like right up front. In this one, like Sting's like on his shoulder almost. Thing just like slams him down, and it's like his upper back is like the only thing that hits the mat. It's just like, oh my God, that man has a family.
Yeah, that'll make you cringe. A lot of what Vader did would make you cringe, and that was one of his big things. People always considered him in wrestling terms they call a snug worker, a stiff worker, if you will. He was, but the thing was, this actually came up on a conversation not too long ago, where he was one of those guys, he could give it and take it, Granted, when you're 400 pounds, you're going to give it a lot harder than some other guys will, But
I don't know if you see that Stan Hansen match.
Well, that's true. I mean, Hansen was basically 400 pounds himself. He was
big too.
So he was huge too. But I mean, Vader went to WCW. He ended up winning the title. He had some great feuds with Sting and Flair. He also had some of the silliness of WCW in the mid '90s. Things such as one of my personal favorites.
Are you going to say what I think you're going to
say?
I'm
not sure if I am. But,
I don't know either.
Probably not. I'm going to talk about the White Castle of Fear. That's what I was going to talk about.
I was hoping we were going Chamber of Horrors.
Oh, well, that one too. That one's also there. We'll just include those both together. The White Castle of Fear, for those who don't know, is kind of...
I actually am unaware.
Okay, well, the White Castle of Fear...
Educate me.
White Castle of Fear had nothing to do with the restaurant White Castle, sadly. There were no sliders. Yeah.
I'm already a little less invested.
I know, it really made me invested too. But basically, there was a series, and I'm going to misquote some of this, so bear with me. There was a series of vignettes that involved Vader, Sting, Davey Boy Smith, and Sid. And
I think I know where this is going.
So this was when Vader and Sid were teaming together. They were the masters of the power bomb. Very creative name. They both used a power bomb, get this, as their finisher. Whoa.
Breaking.
Just crazy, That's why I'm waiting for a tag team called, like, the Technical Wrestlers, just to
Masters of the Body Slam.
Yeah, just to really spell it out, But anyway, yeah, they were teaming together. This is also when the Shockmaster came in, was related to that feud, too.
That's where I thought.
Yeah.
That's where I thought this was going to go.
So that was
you named all those other people. I'm like, oh.
Absolutely. So, they ended up, I think Mick Foley was involved later on there, too. But anyway, the long story short with all that is the White Castle of Fear ended up being a match between Vader and Sting. And the promos leading up to it were some of the silliest stuff you'll ever see, and they were taking it so seriously. And look it up on YouTube when you get a chance, because it involves a little person named Cheatham. I remember that, who is a recurring character in these things. And there is one that involves them playing beach volleyball, and I'm just going to leave it at that. It's so utterly ridiculous that it's worth looking up, because it kind of epitomizes what WCW was at that time. It was just weird. There was some great athletes. The four guys I mentioned, were all involved in that, and Sid. But they were all...
and Chavo. Chavo, too.
Chavo was also in WCW later on. But,
that's a joke we'll have to explain some other time.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that was the big thing. But
so was this before or after that movie they all did? The one with Sting and Davey Boy and Hogan and Vader. They're at the beach.
You're thinking of the same one. That's what that is.
Is
yeah.
that what
You're
that
thinking
is?
of the same one, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Absolutely. That's what that was. And oddly enough, that kind of ended up getting into, again, I'm probably having my timelines mixed up here, but another really important Vader thing is feud with Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
Very important to Mick Foley in particular. Those two feuded for...
Because that's how they turned Cactus Jack from heel to face.
That's right. And, of course, in a different era, that was also where Mick Foley, lost his ear, in the same era actually, but a different time in Germany that was, while they were both there in 94, I believe it was.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think it was 94. So they, Foley and Vader, those two, to go back to our point about Vader just being the brutal athlete he was. And for those of you who watch Mick Foley, he actually has a lot of athleticism to him. He was an amateur wrestler and stuff. But that wasn't what he was known for. He was known for taking bumps, and basically killing himself out there for people's entertainment. And he did it very well, to his own detriment in some points. Fact of the matter is, the matches with Vader kind of went beyond that. They went, accidentally more brutal than they needed to be, And it's just incredible how that turned out. They had a Texas Death Match in there, which was not the Germany one. And then the Germany one came after that. So they, that really kind of made...
Yeah, I think I watched that one too. That's the one where Vader wins because Harley Race hits Cactus Jack with a stun gun when he's trying to get
That's
up.
correct, Because when you're Vader, you really need a cattle prod to win a match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, they really... they had to figure out, really what Vader was, I think, in WCW. And one of the last things I remember of Vader, I know he was U.S. champion, some other things there too. He got involved with the Dungeon of Doom and all that nonsense. The Chamber of Horrors was after that. His feud with Flair, which the feud with Flair was interesting because it wasn't so much a feud as it was a match that came about as a very quick replacement for another match. I don't know if you know about this. So
I don't know about this.
So I heard this recently, and this is wrestling lore. Probably a lot of you guys already know this, but Vader was supposed to fight Sid at Starrcade. That was supposed to be their big match.
Okay.
For those on a show called Spinebuster, we have to drop an Arn Anderson reference here, and you probably know the Arn Anderson Sid stabbing incident backstage.
I have heard about that one.
That was during that time.
Uh-huh.
So Sid got pulled from the match due to that, and they had to find a replacement. And they got Ric Flair back in, which was interesting. I believe it was Eric Bischoff made a call to Ric Flair, and this was...
So was this following his WWE run? This is his return to WCW.
That's correct. Okay. This was, actually, I have it.
So it's got to be like 93.
93. Starrcade 93 is what it was, yeah. They had this match, and look that match up when you get a chance. It is just the crowd energy. It's in Charlotte, so keep that in mind. It's in Charlotte.
That's almost not even fair.
It is in Charlotte.
And we're not talking about the wrestler Charlotte.
Yeah, although she is there for this, too. She's actually in the crowd. So, yeah, she's super young, but she's in the crowd. She appears after the match, so.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, there's just the crowd support for Flair. And granted, Flair's been a heel, for a lot of his career, but he was a face that night. And
whenever you come back and you're in your hometown.
Flair country,
Woo!
That's right. Him and Vader had a heck of a match. It was, it was one of those matches where you're like, you can tell there's a changing of the guard going on, and it just feels right. It's like, yep, okay, Flair's taking over here again, back in WCW, and it feels right. This is where he should be.
Together again.
Yeah, again. So, that was Vader's big, one of his last big things. He feuded with Hogan after that, after Hogan came in 95. And that I have very mixed feelings on. I like Hogan. I'll just preface that. Derek loves Hogan. I like Hogan. Hogan's fine.
A little bit.
Hogan's cool. His feud with Vader was really stupid, though, and he basically, more or less, he didn't squash him, but he basically squashed the mystique of Vader.
It's Hulkamania, brother. Nobody can stand up to Hulkamania.
In 1995? I mean, come on.
In 2018, it's all about Hulkamania, brother.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Ken. What you gonna do, brother, when Hulkamania and his 24-inch pythons destroy you?
For those who are still watching,
our 6 fans are still watching.
we may have 5 now.
Or listening.
Maybe.
I don't want to discriminate against our listeners on Blog Talk Radio.
So, for those of you who are listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, you just missed some amazing Hulk Hogan posing from Derek there. So.
I put it all on the line. You can find it on YouTube later.
That's right. So we'll give you guys the info to check that out later, and follow us on all the various social medias. But anyway, he went through the Hogan feud. He ended up losing to Hogan, and basically after that, he did a little stint in the UWFI, I believe I'm saying that correctly, which was kind of a little offshoot. It was kind of a shoot fed, for lack of a better term. He was there for a brief bit of time, and then was in Japan for a little bit again, and then after all that, we get to 1996.
When we finally meet Vader.
When we finally met Vader. Derek and I finally met
Yeah,
Vader. Actually, I technically met him way
you-
later, but
you- I didn't meet him because I had to work.
Yeah, you did have to work.
I was very upset by that.
Yeah.
In fact, I specifically remember I had to cover somebody's PTO at work. I still remember, and I don't know if I forgive you yet or not.
If that person is watching, you owe Derek.
You do.
There you go.
You do.
But anyway, we met Vader on our television screens as part of the 1996 Royal Rumble match.
It was a great debut, too.
It was a great debut. Not a great Royal Rumble, but great debut. Fantastic debut for Vader, who came in and it's not Royal Rumble. It's not terrible, but
We'll get into Royal Rumbles maybe later.
yeah, some other time.
Yeah.
But Vader's debut was awesome, though. I remember the promos. So this, mind you, none of us really knew who Vader was. We knew who he was, but we didn't know what he was. And you see these promos of just like this massive dude in the Rocky Mountains, it's the Mastodon, who was going to be debuting, and we're like, okay, who's this guy going to be? What is he going to be? And then you find out Jim Cornette's managing him, and it's like, oh, well, crap. And Cornette at the time was, he was probably the top heel manager in WWF.
I mean, if you can't have Harley Race.
Right.
I mean,
James E.
Cornette takes a backseat to nobody.
That's right. So, yeah, the man they call Vader, as they referred to him there, which I just love, that was a debut. He came in, like, the middle of the Rumble, just started tossing people, got in a feud with Yokozuna.
They were supposed to be together, because Yokozuna was also managed by Cornette.
That's right. And these two huge dudes just, ended up
just
fighting.
start walloping each other.
Vader took his mask off in his first match in WWF. He took his mask off. And,
also, one of his last matches.
For what now?
The mask off. The
mask
versus
off.
With Kane.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
The one that made little to no sense.
It made no sense, because I already seen him with his mask
We
off.
already knew who Vader was.
Yeah. But, no, Vader coming in was just something I will always remember. 95, 96 was like my main era of watching WWF before I left for a while, came back to the Attitude Era. And, Vader was just this force that was like, who's going to beat this guy, And for those of you who pick up audio of my neighbors next door, I apologize. So, for the sake of time, the main thing I remember.
No.
That was the no button.
That was the no button
audio.
for the Blog Talk Radio listeners. That was the no button. That was for the children running in the hallway.
There you go. No children running in the hallway on this show. But at the time, so here's a memory for you. We're gonna get some Vader memories and stuff definitely, but interspersed in here, this is specific to '96. There was a guy who was coming up through the ranks at the time, who was just this massive powerhouse. And I was a big fan of his at the time. Guy couldn't cut a promo to save his life, but he was amazing to watch because he was just raw power, and that was it. And that was one, Ahmed Johnson. You remember Ahmed Johnson, yes.
You go down!
Yeah, so one of the most unintelligible promos ever. Fun to listen to, though, because of that. But he and Vader ended up clashing. I don't think they were fought one-on-one. I assume they did at some point. But they, I was so intrigued as a youngster. At the time, I'm like, oh, what if Ahmed fights Vader? It's like, oh, Ahmed's gonna beat Vader down, oh boy. And they ended up fighting at WrestleMania in a 6-man tag, and Vader's team won. So there was that.
There was that.
So much for Ahmed.
Well, I think it was partially because of the stupid stipulation that if the faces won, they'd get 5 minutes with Cornette.
Oh, that's true.
And the faces were Yokozuna,
Jake the Snake
Ahmed,
Roberts.
and Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
Circa, I'm not on drugs anymore, Jake.
Right. Which I'm glad Jake.
I'm clean Jake.
Jake the Snake, if you're watching this for some reason.
DDT.
That's right. We love you, Jake. You're one of my all-time favorites. So
also, if you have 21, I've got 22.
You work at a casino, don't you? that's not how you play the game.
According to Jake the Snake Roberts, it is. And who are you to doubt Jake the Snake Roberts?
Who am I to doubt Jake the Snake? But anyway, Vader came in, like I said, feud with Yoko. He had just an aura to him at the time, and he was this legit badass character in there. And I loved it. I loved it when he came in. He ended up having one of my most memorable moments of that time. Right before I stopped watching a little bit after WrestleMania 12. For some reference here. And right before that, Vader had one of the most memorable moments of that year leading up to it, where Vader bombed Gorilla Monsoon, the commissioner of the company. And,
I remember that was like all over the magazines.
It was everywhere,
And I thought that was so real at that point.
Oh, no.
Still, I knew it wasn't real, but I don't know why, but I thought oh my god, how could you just do that?
Which, Gorilla Monsoon, honestly, one of the best big man wrestlers ever too. You wouldn't know unless you got to see him way back when, but he was a lot smaller at the time. He'd since retired, and his health was starting to decline, but it was not that bad yet. Vader just squashes him, and it's super cool to see. Now looking back upon it, man, that's what got Vader so much heat back then for squashing his beloved Gorilla Monsoon, and that was really cool to see. They ended up not really building on it much. He got a match with Shawn Michaels for the title, which he lost. Under dubious backstage means, apparently, allegedly, and I believe it,
I believe it.
Based on what was
that
going on
era, what was going on at the time,
the Click era,
I believe that Shawn Michaels did that.
Yeah, but Vader he saw the rest of his really the heights of his career during that period. He fought the Undertaker at the Royal Rumble, defeated the Undertaker at the Royal Rumble. He's one of the few men to do that, so that's kind of a cool thing.
Maven also defeated the Undertaker.
Maven did defeat the Undertaker, it's true. Chavo did not, that I'm aware of. But really, we were talking earlier, actually, before we started recording this. After that, you kind of Vader didn't really get the same kind of push after that.
We were trying to pinpoint when the big Van Vader, the Mastodon, the man they call Vader, when the luster of Vader wore off in the WWE. And the best guess that we could come up with was in 1997. There was all that conspiracy around who won the Royal Rumble. Brett threw out Austin. And then Austin comes back in because the referees didn't see it. They didn't see it, of course.
There's 3 referees that didn't see it.
I've never seen something with so many referees and they all missed it. But Austin comes back in. He eliminates Vader and the Undertaker. He eliminates Bret Hart.
And the fake Diesel.
And the fake... Well, I think Bret eliminated the fake Diesel. Bret eliminated the fake Diesel because that's why the fake Diesel wasn't in the match.
That's correct.
Because the gimmick was that the Final Four was all the people that Austin eliminated unjustly.
Oddly enough, future WWE champion, the fake Diesel.
Oh, it's true. It's damn true. So Brett should have won the Rumble.
Mhm.
I still recognize Brett as the winner for the record.
Somebody
Nobody
has
else
to.
does. Maybe Brett does.
I think the fake Diesel won the Rumble, just because I'm a little upset that Kane has never won a Rumble,
So then Shawn Michaels had a bad knee, had to vacate the title.
Yeah.
Or did he lose his smile?
He lost his smile.
He lost his smile that time. He lost his smile.
In Lowell, Massachusetts, the capital of professional wrestling. That'll be a story for another day.
Smile.
Yeah.
So then they have to come up with this new match. They do the Final Four. All the people that Austin eliminated unjustly
In your house, Final Four.
in the Rumble, and it was Vader, it was Taker, it was Austin, and it was Brett. And the match was the entire point of the entire show was that match.
Yeah.
I mean, the undercard was fairly disastrous.
I don't even remember.
I remember Bulldog and Owen versus Doug Furnace and Philippe Lafont.
Oh yeah, Furnace and Lafont. Really underrated tag team, but yeah,
Really, yeah.
but absolutely.
But it was really all about
The Rock fought
Final
Triple H
Four.
in that show. Actually, remember that for the Intercontinental title. Sorry, Rocky Maivia fought Hunter Hearst Helms.
There you
Yes.
go. Now you know why
There
it
you
didn't
go.
matter.
So, but beyond that, no, there's nothing else going on.
And that final format, like Vader gets busted open like bad. He's like bleeding like a stuck hog.
by Taker or by, I forget. It's been so long since I've seen
It was the steel chair, or the steel chair. It was the steel steps. So I want to say it was Taker.
Yeah, probably.
I want to say it was Taker. Picked him up, smacked him with it. Oh man.
Yeah.
He bled more then than when his eyeball popped out.
How does that work?
Why is there no blood loss with your eyeball popping out?
I don't want to find out, to be honest with you.
Hopefully one of the 6 people that watch or listen or follow our show can tell us why there was blood involved or not involved in an eyeball popping out.
I'm hoping that means like somebody has a medical background that's watching, not that someone's going to pop their eye out. Please
Yeah.
don't do
Oh,
that.
please do not try that at
No,
home.
no, never try that at home. That's a terrible idea.
N-O.
Don't try it at home.
Do not try that at home. So yeah, the Final Four though. So after that, what did Vader really do? He didn't win the match.
I don't remember much of anything after that. Was that when he teamed with Mankind
for
and
at
Uncle
WrestleMania.
Paul
Yeah.
was their manager?
Yep, at WrestleMania, that was it's funny to bring that up because Vader had appeared at 2 WrestleManias, and both were just kind of weird tag matches. Like he didn't really have a big WrestleMania match ever.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember he fought the artist formerly known as Goldust
I believe that was his
at
last
one of the
big
Rumbles.
feud. Yeah,
I want to say that was in '98.
'98. That was his last big.
I remember
feud.
LaShawn jumping on his back
Yep.
and like Vader and Vachon hit poor Goldust with the Vader bomb.
Yep. That was his last, I think, big feud besides the one with Kane that we briefly mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the mask versus mask match
Right.
with Kane. That was also '98, wasn't it?
It was where he got hit with a wrench. I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was all I remember.
That's the last match I remember. It was probably the
Yeah.
last one of his pay-per-views, probably.
Yeah, his last pay-per-view match I was just reading the other day, and some of the information about him, when he died, was against Bradshaw, of all people. He fought him at in your house of some sort, and that was his last pay-per-view one. And
So was this Justin Hawk Bradshaw? Was this Blackjack Bradshaw?
that was just Bradshaw.
It was just Bradshaw.
That was post Blackjack Bradshaw, I do believe. I could be wrong on that, but that was a singles run after the NWA thing.
That seems like that's probably accurate.
Around that era.
Justin Hawk was too early. That was like WrestleMania 11.
Not quite that early, but 12, yeah.
Justin Hawk Bradshaw was 12, not 11?
Yep. Sure was.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sure was. He wasn't there, but he was, that was when he was around, though, yeah. And they were the new Blackjacks. But
You're right, because 11 Uncle Zebekiah was managing
Jacob and Eli Blue.
Jacob and Eli Blue.
Yeah, the Harris brothers.
Yep.
So, yeah, there was that.
Now that I've got that sorted out.
But, that was, Vader had a couple other little runs after. They went back to Japan for a little bit. He wrestled like 2 matches in TNA. He came back to WWE. This is a weird one. He came back there, twice. So the second time people remember. The first one people don't remember a lot. He came back with Goldust. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, as
You just said I wouldn't remember it. You forecasted it,
you
and
know,
I surely don't remember.
It was, so this would have been 2005, I'm going to say. 4, probably 5.
Oh,
And
this is why I don't remember. That's during the time that I wasn't
there you
watching.
go. Coach, Jonathan Coachman, he was feuding with Stone Cold when Stone Cold was the Sheriff of Raw and all that jazz. And I might be mixing up angles here, but anyways, Coach and Austin, I know that much. And they were, he brought in Vader and Goldust to fight Austin. And then Austin left, and Batista fought them instead for some reason. And that was that. like, it was just really weird. And I remember that very well because that was one of 2 times.
Yeah. Right here it says 2005, October 31st, 2005. Jonathan Coachman announced that Vader and Goldust would be in his corner for a street fight against Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay, so Coach was fine. I got you.
The next night at Taboo Tuesday.
Taboo Tuesday, yeah.
And then Austin didn't participate. He was replaced by Batista.
I think Austin left the company then, I've heard.
Is that when he took his ball and home?
It might have been that time. Again, I could be mixing these up. I apologize, viewers, but you know, we got a lot of wrestling, a lot of wrestling stuff going around.
I have to read this now because it mentions Spinebusters.
Okay.
So Austin didn't participate. He was replaced by Batista. Vader and Goldust interfered in the match on Coachman's behalf and received Spinebusters for their effort.
Spinebusters. Well, there we go. See, we were in WWE in 2005. The show was there. Batista was doling us out.
Thank you, Batista. You did us proud.
There you go. Batista. So anyway, yeah, basically that was the main things with Vader, his main career stuff. Again, he did a lot of other little things. Oh, I guess we'd be remiss we didn't mention his last appearance on Raw. His last 2 appearances, I guess, but the last angle he had, I think Raw and SmackDown, with Heath Slater.
Heath Slater.
That was fantastic. For those guys who didn't see it, look that up. Look up Heath Slater versus the Legends, or I think it's something like that. He, okay, a quick note on Legends. We're talking about Hall of Famers. Anytime WWE carts out Legends, you often see the same guys. You always saw, which are great
Sergeant
guys.
Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter,
Yeah.
Pat Patterson, Jim Duggan,
Jim Duggan.
Hillbilly Jim. You saw basically who was on Legends House. You saw the cast of Legends House. Piper back when he was still alive. You saw those same guys. Which granted Piper was involved in this too, but at the same time, this
Snuka used to be another one.
Snuka, yep. Back during this Slater thing, which was
16.
Was it really 16? Wow, that's crazy.
No, I lied.
I was going to
It's
say
12.
before that, yeah. Okay, I was thinking of it 16.
I have Wikipedia in front of me, and I'm still wrong.
The reliable source of Wikipedia. But Heath Slater was randomly calling out Legends, and they brought out people you never saw. And the very first one was the man they call Vader. He came out on Raw and got one of the largest crowd reactions I've ever heard.
Yeah, the crowd popped like I wouldn't have never imagined.
Oh my goodness,
I
it was nuts. And he came out and he looked good. He was not slowed down at all. He wasn't 91 Vader, but he was out there as this retired guy and came out and just whipped Heath Slater, and the crowd just ate it up. And it was so much fun. That was one of the last times I can remember really having fun watching Raw too. Was that whole angle. It was just a ball. And then the next week brought Sid, who was not, wasn't on the show for.
I remember that too.
Since 97, he hadn't been on the show, and
one of the first times I saw Sid in a ring after he broke his foot in WCW.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll cover that in some future episode. That was one of the most ghastly injuries I've ever seen.
That was rough.
Joe Theismann-esque, yeah. And he brought out other guys, Rikishi at the time, who was not, you never saw Rikishi at that time either. You just saw DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, my yoga master, DDP. They brought these guys out. It was just so cool to see them and, respected that way, I guess the best way I could phrase it, kind of reminiscing with those older guys and guys you wouldn't normally see. So, really cool. To me, that's kind of the cap for Vader, as far as it was his cap for his WWE time. And hopefully...
Well, he had one appearance after that, but not in the ring.
Not in the ring.
Not in the ring.
No.
When he inducted Stan Hansen in the
Well, that's
WWE
true.
Hall of Fame.
He was also on an episode of Table for Three on
He
WWE
was,
Network.
with
Sting and DDP.
And
Which is a fantastic episode. Check that one out if you get a chance. That's
all you guys
fun.
who have the WWE Network.
Yeah, which I don't.
I
I do not. So
See, I support them. I support anybody who's got a network. I almost always support you.
there you go.
Except
ROH
for
has a network now.
I don't do they? Well,
Yeah.
I don't support them.
And it's the Global Wrestling Network that has
I don't
everybody
support
else.
them either.
No.
Okay, I don't almost support everybody.
Almost. Yeah. But anyway,
So I got
that's,
supported.
kind of some idea of the history of Vader. As we mentioned, 6-time, actually technically more than that, but 6-time in the major companies world champion, which is really, pretty amazing that this guy is not in the WWE Hall of Fame yet, despite every chance they had while he was still living to do so. And I know that's, that hurts. It hurts to know.
That really bothers me.
You know?
It really bothers me
Yeah.
because it was about a year and 8 months ago that Vader made it public information
Yep.
that he was living on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And he didn't announce how much time he had left, but I'm sure privately to WWE, they probably knew that Vader was given 2 years to live.
Right. He kind of said, I think, like he predicted like a year or something. He had said. Then he said, well, maybe that was a bit extreme and stuff, but he's mostly right.
So WWE during that time had not one, but 2 chances to induct Vader into the Hall of Fame. I can overlook the first one. Not a whole lot of notice, whatever.
Right.
It is absolutely inexcusable and unforgivable that Vader did not make the Hall of Fame in this last class.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I besmirched the name of Mark Henry is because he was kind of like an added-on guy at the end.
Yeah.
And it should have been Vader. If they were going to add one more guy, and it was going to be a big guy, it should have been Vader.
Yeah.
Knowing that he was on borrowed time, that he may or may not make it to the next one. And I remember, when they announced Mark Henry, I said, and I quote, WWE better hope to God that Vader makes it to the Hall of Fame the year after. Because if they didn't, they were going to piss me off. And now I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
Inexcusable. Unforgivable. Shame on you, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Shame on you, Triple H. Shame on you, Stephanie. Shame on all of you. For shame.
And there you have it. So, cheers to Vader. Cheers to Vader. Our Hall of Famer. And there.
He's in our Hall of Fame.
He's in our Hall of Fame, so there you go. We beat WWE to be in the Hall of Fame. And yeah, I mean, all the stuff we just talked about, one of the most deserving guys, who's not in there. One other thing we want to do, we did a little bit here, is kind of just...
He's one of the best big men, would you say?
I would say so, and, we were going to talk, about that as well. We also, there was a couple other things I know we were going to mention about Vader's career, some of our favorite moments that we didn't cover.
Yeah.
Because, one thing we touched on, which had nothing to do with wrestling, but let's just talk about it. Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. A lot of people, Vader, the first time they saw Vader was on Boy Meets World, which is pretty wild. And for those of you who are, millennials and, don't have any taste, Boy Meets World was a...
Considering they didn't let Girl Meets World survive.
Which was actually pretty good, too, to be honest with you. It was actually
caught a couple
pretty good. Yeah,
it's
for the kids, but, but anyway, Boy Meets World, fun show. Not everyone liked it, but it was a good sitcom, coming-of-age sitcom, if you will, starring Ben Savage and a cast of others. The Vader on there, the Vader, like I said, the man they call Vader, he was a recurring character. He appeared in 3 or 4 episodes, I believe, and was one of the characters' fathers.
Yeah, he was like the buddy's dad.
One of the bully characters. He was his dad, and the bully character Frankie, who later went on to play the brother of My Name Is Earl. Oddly enough, and, fun fact.
Show I've never heard of.
Yeah, he was on there. He was also in Remember the Titans.
I know that one.
Yep, he was Louis Lastic. Yeah,
I remember the Titans.
he was Louis Lastic. Yeah, Remember the Titans. Big dude, He's,
right. I guess maybe if I watch Remember the Titans again, I would remember.
You need to remember the Titans. Remember that.
Always.
Yes.
Always remember.
But anyway, he was awesome on Boy Meets World. He played himself, sort of. He was a version of himself. Like I said, he was character's dad, but he was also Vader. And made it so funny. He appeared in the wrestling ring in one episode, at least one. He had his mask on and stuff.
That's the episode I remember, is when he is body pressing, the main character's brother.
Yeah.
Is that Savage?
Savage is the main character. That's Corey Matthews, and then his brother.
That's the one that you met, right?
That's what I just met, actually. Will Friedle, who played Eric on there. I just met him actually about a month ago, and cool dude, by the way. He was the brother on there, and he gets body pressed by Vader, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was always the moment that I remember when he's up in the body press. That's also the clip that they included on the tribute video.
Oh, nice. I didn't get a chance to see that yet, but I remember my memory of that was when he's in the ring and he's fighting Jake the Snake, and this match was part of the episode, and I'm not sure when they taped this or how this worked, but anyway, they had the actors from the show at ringside during the match, and the whole storyline of the episode was talking about the character Frankie, the bully, whose dad was Vader, was trying to get closer to his father and couldn't relate to him because he wasn't a wrestling fan. And we've all gone through that, right? That's why I became wrestling fans now. We ended up, but he ends up getting advice from his friends there who are wrestling fans, Corey and Sean, and tells him he's got to speed up the Vader bomb. He's doing it too slow. So in the match, he actually does speed up the Vader bomb. He does a really quick version of it and beats Jake the Snake with it. It's like this huge ordeal and stuff, and it's funny to watch now because, you know, Vader, you can tell he's into it, you know. He's just so into the character and stuff, and he's cutting promos like in the middle of the show and stuff, just, you know, going off on these, you know, I think, well, he talks to Jake the Snake, of course, but he also makes up some other people, I think, and it's just funny to watch. And this is while he was in WWF at the time, and it was just neat to see him in that role, you know. And he did some other acting too, but mostly that's where he's kind of known for.
In that awesome movie, you know, with that I mentioned earlier, the Baywatch-esque
the
one.
Baywatch one, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, he was actually in Baywatch too. That might actually been what you were thinking of too, because
Is that what it was?
Both were on the beach. Yeah, he was in an episode of Baywatch as well with all those folks. That might be what you're thinking of too.
Where Flair like bought the strength training gym.
Yes, that was actually an episode of Baywatch. Yeah, that's what that was. I never watched Baywatch, but I love that. So yeah, actually, yeah,
it was awesomely terrible.
The White Castle of Fear stuff was also on the beach, so that's right. I got confused, but yeah, so some of it was. But yeah, so that was a good memory of Vader. Other particular matches, things that you can remember of Vader that come to mind for you?
I think for the most part we covered the memorable Vader matches that I knew. There was the Stan Hansen beat the crap out of each other, my eyeball popped out match. Yeah. There was the Cactus Jack ripped my ear off match. Yeah. What is it with Vader and body parts?
You know, when you're that strong, that big and that strong, I guess you're bound to.
There was his first championship victory over Sting there. That was a great match.
I mentioned earlier where he lost the title to Flair. The Starrcade match, or the Starrcade '93 match.
That Royal Rumble debut, another one of my favorite Vader moments, when he's single-handedly eliminated both members of the SWAT team.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He was just destroying people. The only part I didn't like about that is like when Vader and Yoko are like going at it, and then Shawn just like walked like just out of nowhere and eliminates both.
Takes them both, yeah.
It's a 400-pound Yokozuna and like a 350-pound Vader.
Yep.
And he just tosses them both over the top rope like
they're nothing.
Yeah.
They're 5 foot and nothing.
They're 5 foot nothing.
100-pound nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those guys were not.
What's up with that?
That was about 1,000 pounds of humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
just whoop over the top rope.
Yep. Out they went.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating.
And it's not even like they weren't even like they were up against the ropes, but it's not like they were like leaning against the ropes.
Yeah, yeah.
He just walked up and little Shawn Michaels, who could barely reach his arms around him.
Yeah. This over. Yeah, that was the super push of Shawn back in that day, which as a kid I appreciated, but now looking back, it's like,
But when I was a kid, I was like, oh my God, Shawn Michaels just eliminated the universe.
Right.
and like now when I think back about it, I'm like,
it's a little more frustrating to look back on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a few I could add to that on the Japan end of things too. The Handsome one definitely. I've been watching a bit on New Japan Pro Wrestling World. Subscribe to that if you haven't already. It's cheaper than the WWE network. Just saying.
It's like $8.60.
Still cheaper than the network.
Compared to $9.99.
Yeah.
Or you can do both. Just saying.
You can do that too. Anyway,
you can do both for under $20.
Anyway, New Japan, just to kind of go back to our conversation about big guys in wrestling, which we're going to talk about a little bit here and more, maybe here in a second. He wrestles a lot of matches against some big dudes, and the matches are just, oh my gosh, just slugfests. And the one against Hansen, of course. There was one where he actually lost his first title to a Russian named Salman Hashimov, who he was the first non-Japanese, non-American to win the title. He has this just really short brawl with him, but it's really cool to see just these powerful guys going at it. One of my absolute favorites, there's a match, I want to say 1989, 88, somewhere in there. He fought one of the big names of New Japan at the time, Shinya Hashimoto. And Hashimoto is a bigger dude as well. He's kind of a big, not a muscular guy by any means, just it's kind of a power guy with a little bit of martial arts in there. And they just have this match that is so fun to watch because of how much they're just killing each other in it. And Vader busts out a perfect dropkick in that match, which entertains me to no end. It's just like a running dropkick. And they just clubbed each other, and it's so much fun. Like you said earlier, the crowd is so into it. The crowd just eats it up. And he has a good match with Scott Norton with that, too. Norton's another guy who gets kind of really underrated. People forget about him.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, Scott Flash Norton. I mean, he's a bigger dude, too. He was not as big as Vader, but he's an arm wrestler, that's where he came from, and they just again have this match that you wouldn't believe. So it's really worth looking up those matches if you get a chance, because the side of Vader you got to see it, but you didn't get to see it as much if WWE or even WCW was your only exposure to him. So something I recommend, checking those out. And of course I love Camp Cornette and WWF.
Camp Cornette was awesome.
Camp Cornette was awesome. I am so sad that James E. Cornette is the only member of Camp Cornette who's still alive. Isn't that baffling?
I hadn't even put that together.
He is the only one. Owen, Bulldog, Yoko, Mr. Fuji, Vader.
Wow.
Yep. All dead.
I had not even put that together.
All dead. Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it? So
was Crush affiliated for a minute? Because I'm thinking
that was before
maybe
that.
like right at the beginning.
Yeah, it was well before. That was before it was called Camp Cornette, but yeah, which he's also dead. So
yeah. But even still, it doesn't help it.
Yeah. So just bizarre, isn't it? That whole group and that WrestleMania match we were talking about. It's like, yeah, 4 of those 6 guys are dead. That's nuts, And Jake, thankfully, got his life together and is doing well now and stuff. But that's just wild to think of,
It is.
Camp Cornette was. It was a good time though. They were a great heel group. No one liked Camp Cornette. They were just perfect as heels. They had nothing likable about them, and that's the best heels when you have nothing likable about you. And they had some talented guys in there. Some guys, all those guys should be Hall of Famers, and none of them are, besides Yoko and Fuji. But that's just strange to think of, So
yeah, it is.
I guess we'll see. But anyway, so that's kind of our talk about Vader, our Hall of Famer. One more quick thing for those of you who are watching on video. I have a picture right here in front of Vader with the world title belt. This picture I actually got from Vader. I got to meet him last year. I'm really grateful I got to do that. He was not in good health at the time either, and you can kind of see it coming at the time, his health woes. He'd already gone through a lot at that point. And he had kind of a rough day when I met him. Not because he met me, well maybe, but he was having a rough go. And but I still got to talk to him for a bit. And he was actually a pretty humble guy. He's a funny guy. He would just, he talked to one of my good friends there who went with us, and he was really with it the day before when he met him, and was just telling stories, was talking about just beating people up and stuff, having a good old time. And I got to talk to him a little bit about his match with Flair, the one we mentioned earlier, the Starrcade '93 one, and he was really appreciative that I got to that I appreciated his work and stuff. So really cool guy, someone I am glad I got to meet, but really sorry he's gone, and someone who there's hardly who can you compare to him, it's pretty wild.
These days, nobody.
Yeah, these days
there's nobody out there who compares to Vader.
Mm-hmm. It's
which I think leads us to an interesting segue here.
Yeah.
We've talked about the past with Vader.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about present, the conditions that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to talk about the future.
That's right.
The legacy of Big Van Vader.
Yep.
And where does Big Van Vader stand up against some of the biggest guys,
Literally,
of all the time?
Yeah.
Now, before we get into it, we should probably specify what meets our specific qualifications as being a big guy.
They big.
They big. They have to be big. They have to be 300 plus pounds.
Yep.
And they have to be over what? What did we say? Under, over, where are we at?
I believe we settled on over, I think we said 6'6" or taller. I think was kind of our goal with it. Or 6'5" and taller, I think is what we went with. Somewhere in that vicinity.
Somewhere.
Unless, I think either that or if they're, over a certain weight.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because you would have certain guys who were, like Yokozuna wasn't 6'6", but he was, a large guy. Spoiler, Yokozuna, one of those, one of the bigger wrestlers of all time. He was not over 6'6" by any means, but he was definitely large, to say the least. He was large. He was a large individual.
He was.
Yeah. So
there's some big guys on this list.
Absolutely, yeah. We were both trying to come up with. Derek and I were looking at kind of a top 10, top 15, top whatever.
10's good. We have to stick to 10.
I might have had more than 10, but
I jotted down a bunch myself. I'm probably also over 10.
But we'll figure it out.
I'm sure we're gonna have some in common. I'm sure we're gonna have some not in common.
Absolutely. So we were trying to come up with who are our top big man wrestlers, guys who just had that certain stuff.
Tear it off the list.
We definitely. I mean, Vader. We're trying to find a place for him amongst this list. I mean, he's obviously on the list. I think we both agree on that, wouldn't you say?
I don't know.
I guess. Oh, okay.
I guess we'll find out.
Okay. So
I guess we will find out. In my head, yes.
Mhm.
But when we start throwing out names, I can't promise you
All right.
that he stays. I mean,
Okay.
I think he will, but I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, give me a name. Give me a name that's on your list. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So give me somebody who's on your list. Who would
Somebody
you think
who's
of?
on my list. I'll put the first one that I wrote down on my list, and if people were watching on the tube of you, they probably saw me at one point while we were talking, randomly grab an ink pen and start jotting something down. And I wrote down the name Gorilla Monsoon.
Gorilla Monsoon, yes. Indeed.
Gorilla Monsoon. I'm like, that's not a name I originally thought of. And I'm
Right.
like, that he deserves to be
Yeah.
mentioned.
Gorilla Monsoon, I mean, it's kind of going back to what we were saying earlier. He was from an era that we didn't get to see. You know, he was, he wrestled way back when, and was a manager and an announcer for most of the time.
He was great at everything he did.
He really was.
I literally have not seen, I don't think, a single Gorilla Monsoon wrestling match. But he was great at everything else.
Yeah, I've seen one on some old video where he's fighting Bruno, I want to say, or something like that. And
That could be.
Yeah, something of that sort. And he was a big old, he's 400-pound guy, and he wouldn't know about wrestling.
I never would have known
No,
that.
he was, 400-pound dude, and he, moved pretty well, for the era. I mean, we're talking the 70s here, so it's a totally different wrestling style at the time, but it was really he'd be on my list too, absolutely. I think Monsoon, for his talent alone, in so much, that he could do.
I don't know where.
Yeah.
We'll just throw some names. We'll be like, maybe or no.
Yeah.
So maybe Gorilla Monsoon.
Quite possibly, yeah.
He might be on the list.
All right, shall I give you one here?
Yeah, you throw one in.
All right, I got myself a near 400-pounder as well.
Okay.
A WrestleMania main eventer, and that is...
Are you trying to upstage me now?
I'm trying to upstage you, that's right, because this is another legendary name that should be in the Hall of Fame. We'll probably talk about later, and that is one, Bam Bam Bigelow. Yes, Bam Bam is to me, the closest we got to Vader as far as athleticism for his size. And the dude was, like I said, about 400, close to 400 pounds, about three and change. He was, 6'4", 6'5". The guy was enormous, and the guy had a long career. And
Yeah.
he literally do cartwheels around people. Literally.
And it's funny that you mentioned Bam Bam, because we completely skipped over this in Vader's timeline. But Vader and Bam Bam were tag team champions.
They were. They were IWGP tag team champions.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep.
And we completely skipped over it. Before we started recording, we both talked about how we wanted to go back and watch a couple of matches of that team.
That's probably why we skipped over. We kind of forgot since we haven't really seen it. But they were tag team champions. Yeah, that's pretty well.
I don't know. I don't know which one goes over the other one.
Yeah.
On the list.
It's hard to say. That ranking them's going to be pretty tough.
It's going to be really tough.
I mean, Bam Bam.
But Bam Bam.
He was ECW world champion. He was a world champion.
Bam Bam might be on the list.
I think to me he would be. So that athleticism thing for a big guy, my goodness.
Yeah.
Did both those guys? They're the only two guys that size I've ever seen do a moonsault. So that's incredible.
It's funny. We've gone an hour and 7 minutes, and never once did we mention Vader doing his Vader salt.
Yeah, that's true.
Never mentioned it the entire show.
No.
But Vader did one hell of a moonsault.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned the
from
Vader
top
bomb. We mentioned the power bomb. We never mentioned the moonsault.
We never mentioned the Vader salt.
Yeah, guy's 450 pounds. He could do a moonsault. Like a perfect one, too.
I can't do a moonsault.
No, I can't either. I would land on my head.
Yeah.
I'd be Brock Lesnar landing on my head. I'd be,
That's nuts.
That would not happen now.
That's nuts.
Who else are you thinking of on this list?
Let me throw out another one.
Yeah.
Since you're trying to upstage me.
Oh, I'm gonna bust out some crazy ones here if I can. Let's see.
Since you're trying to upstage me, I'm gonna see your Bam Bam Bigelow.
Okay.
I'm also gonna raise you a WrestleMania main event.
Oh, okay.
WrestleMania 2.
Oh.
King Kong Bundy.
Interesting. So Bundy, we mentioned earlier about the acting thing, So
not as athletic as Vader and Bam Bam.
Okay.
But really hard as to how do you decide between those three alone?
Right. It's funny. Bundy, I don't actually even have my list, and it's funny because Bundy, it speaks to he's very underappreciated. I think,
is.
And even more than like Bam Bam,
The 5 count.
The 5 count, yeah. I mean, Bundy, his career's so strange in WWF in particular, WWE, because he was gone for a long time in between his 2 runs. He had 2 runs. The second one was kind of, The second one, he really didn't do much. He was in the $1 Million Corporation, and he was just kind of there. Fought the Undertaker.
Prelude to NWO.
Basically, he was just kind of there. He was, yeah, that's it. But his first run, he was a main eventer. He was, he was
beat up those poor little guys.
Yeah, he was one of Hogan's
poor
main
little
guys.
beaver.
He did go from
Tokyo.
Yeah, Lord Littlebrook.
Yeah, Lord Littlebrook.
And what was the other one? Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook were his teammates. They fought Little Beaver and the Haiti Kid. Haiti Kid, yep, with Hillbilly Jim. Yeah, so that was WrestleMania 3. But 2, he was the main event.
2, he was in the main event.
Yep.
And the steel cage against Hulk Hogan.
Yep. Brother. So, yeah, I mean, one, he's not on my list, but at the same time, I absolutely could put him in there, because for a big guy,
it's possible.
He could move.
Yeah.
He was, he wasn't a Bam Bam or a Vader mover, but he was, he had a presence to him that was unbelievable. Another guy with presence who I'm going to guess is probably not on your list if I had to make a guess, just because it's kind of an obscure one. Not obscure in terms of wrestling, he's a super well-known wrestler, but somebody who, to my knowledge, I don't know if he ever fought in WWE, but I think he was in the old school WWF, if we're going way back to that, for a while, but he was mostly known for work in Japan and elsewhere, and that's Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody is he has his own niche in the legacy of, like, the big man brawling wrestling, when people talk about him nowadays, they bring him up in the context of, oh, he's a wild Bruiser Brody brawler type guy, and, guy, you don't really think of him as, like, he's not the big, fat guy like some of these other guys, but he was a huge dude. He was 6'8". He was like this, massive dude, 6'8", 200 pounds, and he was a, just a kind of a I don't want to use the word maverick, but he was he was a trendsetter in a lot of ways. A lot of people copied his style later on, and unfortunately, he was, he died, he was killed very young, and in his 40s, and he didn't, he influenced a lot of people in that time period, which was pretty cool. So he comes to mind for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to see your Bruiser Brody.
Okay.
And I'm going to throw you out a Bruiser Brody-esque guy.
Okay, who do we have
Who
here?
we've also talked about already. Stan Hansen.
Stan Hansen. The Lariat. Yes,
those
indeed.
two, to me, they're almost, I don't want to say they're carbon copies, but they're very similar.
They do have
Their size, their brutality.
Yeah. Utterly brutal guys.
I wouldn't want to meet either one of them
seriously.
in a dark alley.
Hansen's still alive, so you still could. So there's that, but
I still don't want to meet him in a dark alley.
So there's that.
Preferably in a well-lit room.
Yeah, keep your eye, keep your hand over your eyes, that. Jeez,
like Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
Like Jean-Pierre Lafitte, Quick Vader thing. You know what? I mentioned this earlier. Vader. We got to see Vader live, and I didn't even mention that.
We didn't in 1998.
1998, and he fought Jacques Rougeau of the Quebecers.
Oh,
and it was actually, it's funny because I remember the only thing I remember of that match. I know Vader won, but he was supposed to fight Jean-Pierre Lafitte. He was supposed to fight Pierre of the Quebecers, but Pierre was injured at the time, so he fought Jacques instead. And I felt so ripped off because I had to see him fight Pierre. No offense to Jacques Rougeau. Jacques Rougeau was awesome, but I just remember, like, it's on the card, and why am I not seeing this match, But
card subject to change.
And it was. But no, we got to see Vader live. It was the only time. That was in '98, May of '98.
Yeah,
so pretty close to the end of his run, and like right before it probably.
Yeah, probably.
So it was. He was still. That was after he got quite a bit bigger and stuff. He wasn't in the greatest shape, but he was.
That's why he's fighting a Quebecer.
He was fighting a Quebecer in the post-intermission match on the house show at Notre Dame. Yeah. So we got to see him live, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Stan Hansen, who is a Hall of Famer now and probably will be again. He is, Stan Hansen. I agree with you. Very similar to Brody. Had that Japanese career. Got over massively in Japan and elsewhere. And, wasn't a big WWF name by any means. He was there for a while. He fought Andre and some other stuff, but he was, later on, and he fought Bruno. He had some big name stuff back in the day. But he's one of those guys who kind of came back into the limelight much later on, too. Not because of coming back into wrestling, just because people recognized him, which was good. I'm glad they are, So let's see, I can't raise you anything much from Stan Hansen, but Stan Hansen's pretty darn unique. But some of the other guys have my list.
I was gonna say let's rapid fire some because
there's
some no names.
We're just gonna give you all no names now.
There's some no doubt guys who deserve to be on this list that we can sit here and try to one up each other with.
And that's true. So
let's just rapid fire.
We'll name some easy ones here. So Andre the Giant.
I mean, what is there to say about Andre that hasn't been said?
Absolutely.
Undertaker.
The Undertaker. Yeah. The Big Show.
Big Show.
Big Show's lengthier career than any of these guys. You know,
Did we already say Yokozuna?
we didn't actually.
Yeah,
so
Yokozuna.
Yeah, pretty straightforward one. I think those were the main. Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash.
Yep.
Kane. You know, these
Kane.
guys. A lot of these guys are the big taller guys. These 7-footers and stuff, but still big men.
So now that we got some of those
easy ones out of the way.
easy ones out of the way,
Let's get some tougher ones.
Let's talk about Mabel.
Mabel. Okay, Big Vis.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, he had a lot of different identities with the company.
He did. Big Daddy V.
He was one of the first guys that I remember doing a spinning heel kick.
And that's true.
Shades of the Great Owen Hart.
Yeah. For a 500-pound guy, it was darn impressive. The thing I remember with Mabel, and he's since passed away too, sadly, but the thing I remember with him, number one, he never gets credit for how good he was. He's always looked down upon because he won King of the Ring and he shouldn't have, and this and that, which to each his own with that. But the guy was talented. The guy could work a match. He didn't always show it. He had some matches, especially with the one with Diesel, that
probably tanked his career.
That probably did, and they tried with him in Man on a Mission, which was fun. And
it was. Ooh, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar and Mo and stuff. One thing I remember, Mo, it's like I say about Mabel, is a kind thing I can say about his size. He made Mo look so small that you thought Mo was like this miniature guy. And he really wasn't. He was a normal sized guy. But Mabel was
Mo should also be talked about.
Mo was actually a pretty big guy for his size. That didn't make any sense at all. But you know what I mean. Compared to Mabel, though,
big. Just not as big as Mabel.
And later on, just to mention on Mabel too. Later on, when he became Viscera, he kind of managed for a little bit, and then remember when he came back as Big Daddy V?
Oh God!
And it's
that outfit.
That outfit where he's just like the guy if you didn't realize he was big before that, my goodness, that guy just he let it all hang out with that outfit.
Literally,
and he was just this massive dude, and at that point he couldn't move as well and stuff either, but he was just he was enormous. He actually his old he had I forget what the indie name was. It was like Lord Humongous, I think was his indie name. I think it was, So very fitting name, I think.
I would say going back to the King of the Rings, King of the Rings were a thing that I really enjoyed back in the day.
Sure.
One of the better coronations was King Mabel.
King Mabel.
I mean, number one will always be Austin's.
Sure.
I think Bret Hart and being interrupted by Lawler and the Burger King thing, that will probably always be one of the best ones too. But then the long drawn out coronation where they're pelting him with stuff, and Mo's just like, "Long live King Mabel!" I'll never forget it.
And he wouldn't give it up either.
I'll never forget it. So that was another good one.
I
don't know if he makes the list, but I think he's in the discussion. I think he's in the discussion.
So I'm going to throw one out that I doubt will be on your list. I mentioned him earlier, though, and I'll mention him again, and that's Giant Baba.
Yeah.
Giant Baba. He's a Japanese legend, He, the guy was 6'10", and he was like a lanky. I'm just going to look it up real quick. Sorry. 6'10", 283. There you go. So he was not, one of your enormous dudes, but he was really, really tall, especially for a Japanese guy. You don't see that terribly often. And Baba was just kind of a legend, partially because he was such an attraction, And we talk about that with Andre, we talk about the Big Show, like these attraction wrestlers who were, super just unique, and there was no one else like them. That segues, going to segue to another one here real quick because I already talked about Baba a bit. One of the biggest attractions, literally and figuratively, of the 70s and going into the 80s a little bit, mostly 70s though, was another guy who my dad told me about many, many moons ago, and that was one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, Haystacks Calhoun.
Haystacks. I thought I was going to have to bring Haystacks up.
Haystacks Calhoun. He was a mountain of a man. Yeah, Calhoun. If any of you who are watching this have never seen a picture of Haystacks Calhoun, just go look one up real quick, and you will not believe how big this guy is.
He's like 3 hillbilly gyms.
He really is, The guy was freaking enormous. He was 600 pounds. He was, he has a famous match against Happy Henry or something like that. He was like 800 pounds or something.
Oh my God.
Who couldn't move. But Haystacks could. Yeah, Haystacks could, which was what was crazy. But you just hear the legends of Haystacks Calhoun, and that's what makes him so interesting to me. You'd hear about how he was, he'd eat a dozen eggs for breakfast. He'd have, all these different, different habits and stuff. And he was a legit farmer. That's his character, and that's what he was. And the guy could, chuck a bale of hay like no one's business, but that was his character too. And he was around, up until the 70s. He was around the 60s and 70s, I believe, and possibly back in the 50s too. And he was, he was one of the guys my dad remembered, and I just remember hearing it from him and stuff. And I got to, look up a little bit. There's not much footage of him wrestling per se, but he was, quite the show, quite the attraction. Country boy from Arkansas.
Don't go mess with a country boy.
That's right, a country boy. A country boy.
PN News.
News. Why don't you? I'm gonna take a long drink. And why don't you tell us why PN News be on this list?
Why shouldn't we talk about PN News? I mean, he big, and then he came to the ring in his big fluorescent green singlet, and he did the whoop. There it is, and it was very 1992-ish. He teamed with Big Josh. This is all very memorable stuff from PN News. He's not going to make the list.
I have a sneaking suspicion PN News is not going to make the list.
PN News is not going to make it.
I don't think Big Josh is going to either, but
No,
you never know.
Well, let me try this again then.
Okay.
Bastion Booger.
Bastion Booger. Now, okay, Bastion Booger's interesting. So tell me about Bastion Booger. What do we got with Bastion Booger?
Well, I mean, he was great. He smeared food all over himself.
It's great.
As he eats like chicken legs, and they're like hanging all over him. I remember him Survivor Series where him and the head shrinkers are like all eating this poor turkey. Poor turkey. It's just everywhere. It was a mess. I think he gets counted out because he leaves the ring to go get turkey.
I want to say you might be correct. Yeah.
And then he had that great finisher where he like stood over him and he swiveled his hips and then dropped down to his knees and went.
This is why we love wrestling, folks. This is it right here.
Bastion Booger not on the list?
Probably not.
Probably not on the list. Okay.
Just a quick note too, just because you brought up Big Josh. Big Josh was Doink the Clown.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I remember correctly, he wasn't that big. He was like 6 foot tall. He was like
average size wrestler Josh.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind
of. Man Mountain Rock.
Man Mountain Rock. Now you know what? I'll give you something on Man Mountain Rock. So tell me why you like Man Mountain Rock first off.
He played a mean WWF guitar.
Indeed, he did. Yep. Those were good times.
Isn't that reason enough to make the list?
It's all right. Man Mountain Rock, actually, in WCW, actually had a better run there. He was Max Payne there, which is one of the most generic wrestling names you'll ever come across. But he was actually pretty good. He has Max Payne. He was all right. I saw some matches with him. There's a match between, it was him and Cactus Jack fighting the Nasty Boys in a hardcore match, and it's actually so much fun to watch. It's just crazy to see. And yeah, Man Mountain Rock is he's a bigger dude.
I'm gonna guess he's not on the list.
Probably not. But
right,
it's Me About Rock.
I'm on a roll here. Let me.
I can interrupt you, but I feel like I shouldn't.
Giant Gonzalez.
Giant Gonzalez, one of the most imposing figures you'll ever see.
I'm getting better, right?
He fought at a WrestleMania.
He made it to WrestleMania 9.
He did.
Where he lost by disqualification to The Undertaker.
The Undertaker. He was also El Gigante.
Yep. He was in the Chamber of Horrors match.
He was.
I'm going to reference that as many times as I can in this show.
I'll give you another chance to reference it too, because another person in that Chamber of Horrors match, I believe, was Kamala.
It just made me remember one.
Oh, there you go. I believe Kamala was in that match too, was he not? In the Chamber of Horrors?
No.
No? He was in the Dungeon of Doom, I remember.
But he deserves mention.
Kamala
and
was
I hadn't thought about him.
Yeah, Kamala was a big dude. He was, his character kind of limited him a little bit, I always felt. You never really got to see what Kamala could do.
Well, before you, Giant Gonzalez cross him off the list?
Probably.
Not okay. I tried.
Probably.
I tried. God rest your soul.
But yeah, Kamala was interesting because his character was, he was this Ugandan giant. And he wasn't meant to be a great technical wrestler or anything, but he could go. He was,
he's not in good health now.
He's in terrible health now,
He's lost both his legs.
Yep, he has.
Actually, last I knew, he's virtually on his deathbed.
That's what I heard too.
In late 2017, he was like in a coma, but then they took breathing tubes out and he started talking. So, and then that's just kind of last I've heard.
Unbelievable, huh? Yeah. Yeah, Uganda, he called Uganda in ECW, but Kamala was quite, it was interesting to watch, I'll give him that. I don't know if he'd be on the list, but he was there. I'll toss somebody out here, someone we mentioned earlier, Scott Norton. Scott Norton's interesting. You don't really think of him as a big man wrestler, but yet he is. He was the 300-pound guy.
I mean, I get it.
You know, he was just solid. Like he was one of those solid wall guys. You know, who just not like the Wall Brother, but
Wall Brother,
which I guess he could technically be someone we talk about too. But Scott Norton was really talented. Again, he was an arm wrestler. He was strong as could be, and he did a lot with a little, which I thought was pretty interesting. He didn't have like the best personality. He didn't really, you know, they always worked around that pretty well.
Yeah.
He was also an IWGP World Champion, and 2-time, I believe. And yeah, someone you don't really think of as much, Scott Norton.
No!
He's not on the list.
He's not on the list.
The no button has told
the
me.
no button has spoken.
All right.
Nothing against Scott Norton.
Yeah.
I just think that with as many people as we're going to name, we're
Sure.
both going to have to agree on who these 10 are.
This is true.
And I just think that there's probably 10 other guys that I can think of other than Scott Norton.
There probably are.
Although Scott Norton, he's solid. I will give you that.
Okay.
He's
We'll take solid.
super solid. This is the most solid of all the solids.
Okay.
The Shockmaster.
The Shockmaster.
The Shockmaster.
Are we talking about the Shockmaster, the character, or the man? Tugboat, Typhoon,
We're talking about
Fred Oppen?
maybe all of the above.
Okay. If we perhaps include the other characters, I might give you something with that. But, you know, it's going to shock you. I'm going to say no to that.
Yeah.
You know. What about his partner, Earthquake?
I have him on my list. I was
John
saving him
Tenta.
to last,
There you
so I
go.
figured we might forget him, but then I knew
Yeah.
when I mentioned Shockmaster,
Oh, yeah.
he's going to come up.
Naturally.
Poor planning.
It
Poor
was a
planning.
natural disaster, so that was that plan.
It
You know,
was.
Tenta was interesting. You know, huge dude, sumo wrestler, no less.
Yeah.
And
I remember that sumo match with Earthquake and Yokozuna.
yes, there was
And
that.
I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah, he in Japan he fought. Gosh, who the heck was it? It was I want to say Hiroshi Hase, not Hiroshi Hase. I forget who it was, but he. He had a sumo match over there where it just like completely broke down to a shoot. And I remember like that was it's kind of those wrestling urban legends, and it's actually true though that it happened. It's one of the things people remember about John Tenta. But yeah, Earthquake was he was another guy like Bundy. You know, he main evented with Hogan. He was serviceable in the ring. He was never going to be a super technical wrestler by any means. He was a big dude who could do a lot of stuff, and he was a sumo on top of it. So it's pretty interesting. I'm gonna look that up now so I can find out who that was.
Another sumo-esque guy who we haven't mentioned, Rikishi.
Rikishi. Yes.
I did it for the Rock. I did it for the people.
Yep. He sure did, didn't he?
He did.
He darn
He
well
did.
did.
He did. I figured at the very least he deserved that much of a reference.
You know, I'll give him that.
I don't think he's on the list.
He's probably not on the list.
No.
No.
Didn't make the list.
One
But
name
deserved to mention.
Yeah, I'm going to mention one. I know he's not going to be on the list, but just someone to mention from way back when.
Ooh, way back when.
Way back. We're talking 50s.
Oh.
Yeah. So someone who people never really think about, but I only know him thanks to Jim Ross, actually.
Oh.
Jim Ross mentioned him a long time ago on some video series, and I ended up looking him up and just finding more about him. It's a man by the name of Don Leo Jonathan. Don Leo Jonathan was this. He was 300-pounder, 6'6" some odd guy, and he was just like. He was called the Mormon Giant, which is a great name for a wrestler, let me tell you.
Let me guess. He was from Salt Lake City, Utah.
He was from Salt Lake City, Utah, as a matter of fact.
I went right out there on a limb on that one.
But he wrestled mostly in Canada, as I recall, and he was just, he's one of those big name guys who was a big dude, and he was kind of in the NWA belt there, wrestling for NWA for a while. So yeah, not going to be on anyone's list, but just interesting to mention him because he was a guy.
Very, very educated right there.
Yeah,
I feel.
people don't really know about him and stuff. So
I've got about 2 people on the list left.
All right.
One we haven't mentioned.
I've got 3.
One is yours.
One is mine.
One is yours, so I'll leave that one to you.
Okay. So
Apparently, we'll get to that one.
all right.
But when you mentioned Chamber of Horrors,
Yes.
it reminded me. Abdullah the Butcher.
Abdullah the Abby, gosh, yeah.
Abdullah the Butcher.
He's a funny one. You don't think of him as a big man wrestler. I mean, he's huge, but you think of him as a hardcore wrestler.
Yeah.
He's,
Don't get me wrong. I hate him. I hate Abdullah the Butcher.
You hate hardcore wrestlers in general, as I recall, except for Mick Foley.
So I had to include him on the list because he big.
Mhm.
Because he big, and that's what we do. We're talking about some of the biggest big guys.
He's real big.
He big.
A guy kind of on the same token I'll mention is, more in recent times, is Abyss.
Yep,
The
that was
Monster
the
Abyss,
last
you know?
one.
Yeah.
Yours, I figured.
The Monster Abyss, yeah, he's a bigger dude. I've gotten to meet Abyss twice actually. The guy's hand just engulfs yours when he shakes it. It's crazy. But Abyss is probably the most recent example, I guess, outside like a Braun Strowman or one of those, you know. But as far as like a main event guy, he was a big dude, you know. And
so funny, I didn't even think about Braun Strowman.
yeah, I mean he's you know,
he's still young.
he's still young. He's got time. We'll have him on a list eventually. Maybe we'll see if he stops being like stupid and starts getting pushes again, and, or actually demounts to something. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Abyss, Joseph Park, Joseph Park, good old Joseph Park Esquire.
See, that's where he ruined it for me. I love the Abyss character.
Yeah.
I hate the Joseph Park character.
I loved them both, just for totally different reasons. And Abyss, though, you think of, in more recent years, he's gotten a lot bigger and stuff. He's not quite as mobile as he used to be. But when he started off, he was having a match with AJ Styles and stuff that he did that so well. And it's like, big man who could move, like we said with Vader, And younger guy, too, at the time.
And they go back to shows that we saw live. We saw Abyss perform several times. We saw him against Jeff Hardy in the rain.
We did, in the rain.
In the rain.
Yes. We saw an outdoor show in the rain. Featuring Abyss versus Jeff Hardy in the main event.
In the main event.
There were thumbtacks.
There were thumbtacks. He was at Slammiversary.
He was.
More thumbtacks. More thumbtacks.
Yes.
Was that the Monsters Ball match?
That's the mixed tag Monsters Ball match.
With Raven, Daphne. Who's the other one?
Him and Taylor Wilde.
Him and Taylor Wilde.
Yep. And Raven and Daphne. Yeah. Yes, indeed. We need a list with Daphne on it eventually, just to give appreciation to Daphne. I'm not sure what the list would be, but at some point.
Daphne is probably one of my all-time favorite women's wrestlers.
We'll have a conversation with women's wrestlers on Spinebuster in the future,
Yeah. I would say underrated women's wrestlers, maybe.
You never know. Maybe next episode. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? You never know.
I don't know.
I'm going to name my other one who's definitely a me one, and that is the Gladiator, Mike Awesome.
Oh.
Mike Awesome is...
Which just reminded me of another one.
There you go. Mike Awesome is one of my all-time favorite big wrestlers, which is funny. He's not actually that big. He was like 6'6" and like barely 300 pounds. But he was the big guy at ECW, the era that I watched it. So I loved it. He was so much fun to just watch. Of course, the classic was him and Masato Tanaka and all their matches.
Bless you.
They just killed each other. Like, just killed each other. And they ended up with, they ended up fighting again at WWE, and their reunion shows so much so well received. But Awesome could do so many things, and he was a flyer, kind of like talking about Vader. The guy could do a splash across the ring, and he was, not as big as Vader, but he was, he had that athleticism to him that you didn't see in a lot of guys. And he's another guy who gets very little respect in the wrestling industry, so people kind of forget about Mike Awesome. Again, not, a true big man, but in the sense where he was positioned, he was.
And when you said Mike Awesome, it instantly reminded me of the master and ruler of the world.
Who was the last one on my list, by the way?
Sid Justice.
Yeah, or Sid Vicious. The psycho one himself.
Yeah, remind me. Sid, Sid, I think, has to be in this discussion.
Former two-time WWE champion, three-time WCW champion, I believe, off the top of my head. He wrestled everywhere. And, Sid's a curious character. He is one of the strangest wrestlers you'll ever see, in terms of just his personality, the charisma that he had. It was, I guess, he's one of a kind, Sid. You can't compare anyone to him,
No, so we've got a terrible problem.
We've got a lot of people
We've got a terrible problem.
All right, what's our
We have precisely 22 people
right.
that we have on our list, per se. So I guess I'll go through the 22 finalists.
Okay.
And we'll say yay or no. They're both going to have to be yays to be on the list. I can't imagine. And try to keep your top 10 in mind when you're giving your yays and nays.
There we go.
I'll move the no button over here, closer to Ken. If you hear a no, I think it's pretty obvious what that means.
So we're looking for a top 10 big men.
Yeah, you got to think about who your top 10
all the
be.
factors.
There's a lot of factors that go in.
A lot of factors.
We'll start with the end of my list over here, on the furthest right of my page. Shockmaster.
Oh!
Yeah, I was also gonna hit it, so Shockmaster.
Sorry, Shockmaster.
I'm sorry, but you're gone.
I love Just Typhoon.
Yeah, I mean you were great. The Natural Disasters was some of my favorites.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the list, and if we still have more than 10, we'll go through it again.
Or I have a better idea.
Do you have a better idea?
To get our listeners and our viewers involved here, perhaps we should put...
Look at them. Look at him. Look at him sitting there.
All 6 of them are all right there. I
Look
see
at him
them.
sitting there.
I see him.
Watching this. They don't want to be involved.
You know what? They want to be involved.
They don't want to be involved.
In case you want to be involved, just in case.
Okay, I can let that stay.
There you go. I propose that we put a poll.
Well, I think they should tweet us.
I think they should tweet us.
I think they should tweet us their top 10.
I think you should tweet us your top 10.
You should totally tweet us your top 10 on our Twitter machine.
That's right. Big man wrestlers.
Yeah.
I think you should let us know what you think because everyone's
got their own top
different.
10.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we've mentioned everyone from The Undertaker to the Shockmaster in this conversation.
I don't know if Shockmaster would be my bottom on this list. Of all the people we mentioned, I don't think Shockmaster's the bottom of this
There
list.
were some definite bottoms mentioned, but anyway.
PM News is probably the bottom of
Well,
this
that's very true. Yes. So
Whoop, there it
there
is.
is that. We didn't even get into well, I'll get into some other ones later, but sir, no. We didn't give a Great Khali wasn't on our list.
Nope.
No,
He doesn't even deserve to be on the funny side of this
right?
list.
For world champion.
Because there's a handful of these guys I'm sure you probably figured out that I mentioned just to be funny.
Probably. Anyway, so but yeah, let us know. Let us
Twitter
know.
machine, hit us up, Spinebuster Show, and hit us with your top 10 big guys.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear them.
You bet.
We'll see how they compare to ours.
All right. So last thing. What else we have here?
So Bruiser Brody,
Bruiser Brody, I love. He's on my list. But
you think he's on your top 10? I'm not sure, but I'm not willing to cross him off.
okay.
I'm not willing to cross him off yet. Stan Hansen,
Yeah. Definitely.
same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not. Giant Bama.
You know, I liked him because of his influence, but I don't know if he'd be in my top 10.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
we're gonna reach an impasse
Yeah.
here because
yeah.
I don't do Japanese wrestling.
Just Hansen. He's mostly Japan. You know.
But he's a Texas boy.
Yeah.
Don't go mess with a Texas boy.
I guess not.
Abyss.
No.
That was Derek, just for
Yeah,
reference.
that was me.
Abyss
That
might
was
be.
that was all Joseph Parks.
He might be in my top 10.
Yeah,
I don't know,
he gotta go.
but- fine.
Abdullah the Butcher.
For the last time. No.
That was an appropriate response. No button.
This button has a lot of different responses. All right. Yeah, that's a no for me too.
Kamala.
No.
No.
Yeah, just thought.
Mike Awesome.
Now,
I know you're a little biased. I know
am.
you have a special place for Mike Awesome.
I do have a special place for Mike Awesome.
I'm a
And,
little torn on Mike Awesome too. I think it's probably just because of our friendship that
Yeah.
I maybe have a higher, because I didn't watch ECW.
Sure.
I know that 70s Mike Awesome.
Which was not the best of Mike Awesome.
Uh,
That said, Mike Awesome was still good in the ring at that time. That was,
he wasn't
ECW
he
Mike
wasn't
Awesome,
terrible.
you know.
So you're gonna have to sell me right now on not hitting this no button on Mike Awesome.
So while you skip to the next person, we'll get back to that because I was just starting who I think should be my top 10.
No, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I
yeah.
was gonna let you monologue, and then I was gonna do that. But since you're not doing that,
Nope, sure not doing that.
I really don't have anything else to say about Mike Awesome.
Already.
So we'll skip him and leave him on the maybe list. Sid, I think, depending on who the 10 are, I think Sid could be on the list.
It could be. He's a little borderline for me, but maybe.
Yeah,
Depending who the
he's.
10 are.
I mean, he's ahead of Mike Awesome for me.
He is a little below Mike Awesome for me,
Really?
purely from an athleticism standpoint, and that's where I'm coming from. on
Well, I
that.
mean, he's very athletic. You saw him come off the second rope and break his leg. It doesn't get any more athletic than that.
Sure.
I've never seen Mike Awesome bend that way.
You know, I've not either. That's could have.
Big Show.
Yeah.
He's got to be on the list.
He's got to be on the list.
He's got to be on the list. I mean, he used to do those drop kicks from the top rope.
He used to jump over the top rope. He used to do
Yeah.
the little
He-
entrance.
he's
that
gotta be
was
on it.
crazy. He used to be able
King
to-
Kong Bundy.
To me, he's a no.
He's a no to
He's
you.
a no. I just think there's 10 guys who are higher than him.
You got to hit the button, or else it's not official.
There we are.
That sucks
It's-
because
it's-
I think
it
King
does
Kong
suck.
Bundy is on my list, and out of respect to King Kong Bundy, I probably would have put him at 5.
Okay, that's pretty darn high. I will
Well,
say.
I mean the
Yeah.
5 count.
Yeah, the 5.
Yeah, I mean,
I get you.
Haystacks Calhoun. Are we gonna?
Oh man.
Is Haystacks Calhoun gonna make
He's
the
borderline.
Spinebuster top 10 of big
He's
guys?
borderline for me, but he's like the biggest guy, so it's like I almost
He-
can't go wrong with
I
him.
know.
You know? It's crazy.
tough.
you know?
We'll leave him for now. Andre's still in.
Yeah,
We're not.
Yeah, I mean,
Mabel.
he's borderline for me.
He's borderline for you.
Borderline for me. Yeah.
I think he's gonna be in the lower end for me as well. Yoko.
Yoko's in for me.
I think Yoko's ahead of Mabel. So
Yeah, Yoko's ahead of Babel for me. He's also ahead of Sid for me. He's ahead of Awesome.
I
for
think
me.
Yoko's
He's-
ahead of Sid and
Yeah.
Awesome for me. Like,
Yeah.
It's not looking good for Awesome right now.
You know, and he might get
Or
moved
Sid.
a bit, you know, but Yoko
Awesome,
definitely.
Awesome and Sid might slip out. Kane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Earthquake.
Looking at my list right now, no.
I'm afraid he's gonna just miss out.
Yeah, looking at my list right now, he'd be a no for me, which is sad. But
I'm gonna say because I'm thinking
Yeah.
he's not gonna make it.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that was hard. That was a begrudging no.
Seriously, yeah.
That was a really tough one to hit no on.
Yes, indeed. I'll agree with you.
Bam Bam.
He's a yes for me.
I feel like he has to be,
Bam Bam.
but I just don't
yeah.
know.
Bam Bam, I'll put it this way, Bam Bam not won the ECW title. We could have a different discussion about this, but I feel like the man was a world champion. The man was a WrestleMania main eventer. He was one of the best athletic big men you've ever seen in wrestling, and to me that gets him in.
We're down to about 15, so it's
Okay.
getting there.
All right.
Nash.
Nash would be in for me because I mean the guy was.
I feel like Nash is in.
Nash is a superstar. I mean,
Taker, no doubt,
Taker,
no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah, absolutely.
Vader.
Yes.
I feel Vader's on this list.
Vader's on this list.
Monsoon.
He's one of the other borderline ones for me, and
I
think
really struggle with where Monsoon fits in.
Monsoon, my issue with him is the majority of his career I didn't see,
Yeah.
which just sucks. And for him, I think his best known roles were after his wrestling career.
I'm gonna have to say because of those same reasons, we're gonna have to cross
Yep.
Gorilla Monsoon off this list.
N-O.
Yeah.
Not so definitive like that. I didn't like that one.
That's not good.
That
Let's try that again.
No.
No, that was angrier.
No. No.
That,
It just sounded sad.
no. That one works. That one's the painful no. No, not Gorilla Monsoon. So let's see. We have Vader.
Yep.
Taker,
Yep.
Nash, Bam Bam.
Uh-huh.
Kane.
Yep.
Yoko,
Uh-huh.
Mabel, Andre, Haystacks, Big Show, Sid and Awesome, Stan Hansen, Brody. We have to take 4 out.
Take 4 out. Okay. So, out of those,
Out of those, Awesome's my bottom.
Awesome, not my bottom one, but he probably would end up being my second from the bottom one. So,
Let's pick out a bottom 4.
Yeah.
I think Awesome's a bottom 4.
I think Sid honestly
I
is
think Sid's
too.
a bottom 4.
Yeah.
I think Mabel's a bottom 4.
Mabel,
And then
either Haystacks or Haystacks or maybe even Yoko, which sucks to say, but I mean,
I'm thinking Haystacks.
yeah, I mean Haystacks. He was.
I'm thinking Haystacks, and it's kind of the Gorilla Monsoon thing.
It is, you know. didn't
It's
get
just I don't know as much.
right. It's a so.
So is that what we're doing? We're taking Sid, Awesome, Haystacks, and who was the fourth? Sid, Awesome, Haystacks, and Mabel.
Mabel. Oh, yep. That would be. Yeah, that's tough. This is tough, listeners. This is tough, watchers.
So there we go. We have 10.
We have our top 10. Just
So
like
who? Should we do these in order?
I don't know if we need to. Honestly, we have a top 10, and I think what's kind of cool about this, we have a top 10. Vader, who we've been talking about all day here, is definitely in there. I think that's kind of, the whole point of this. We wanted to know where Vader ranks among all these top guys, and I think if you look at that list, that's a list of Hall of Famers.
It absolutely
really
is.
Every single person on that list is a Hall of Famer.
I think it gets really difficult if you tried to rank these guys.
Yeah. And especially, we talked about this off camera earlier. There are more than one. There's more than one style to the big man wrestler.
Yeah.
You look at the Undertaker versus
Taker, Nash,
yeah.
Kane. Those are all like a same style.
Right, same style.
They're not the same type of big guy
Right.
as Yokozuna and Andre.
Right.
And Vader and Bam Bam are another
Right.
style. Hanson and Brody are another style.
Exactly.
Even different than
Yeah.
Taker, Nash, and
Yeah.
that other guy, Kane.
If you put in guys, like we said, like the Haystacks, I mean, that's totally different style too. Haystacks and Monsoon, were a different style back in the 70s and before then, the 50s through 70s. And it's, it's different eras, bring different flavors of wrestling, if you will, the flavors of ice cream talk, as we've discussed before. The flavors of ice cream in wrestling, everyone likes something different. But I think what's cool about this list, you get a pretty good perspective of the guys who have been those top guys, both by height and weight and by talent. And it's really interesting to see a list like this and to think of a guy like Vader, who's since passed on, or Yokozuna, or even Mabel, or these guys who are no longer with us, and just the impact. Andre, Bam Bam, guys who Brody, who have transcended the wrestling business. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true, because these guys are legends. You know, they are legends because of their size and because of what they did with it, and that's pretty cool. You know.
I agree, and I'm gonna head and rank them in my order anyhow.
Okay. Well, very good.
And you
Maybe
can
that's something. Maybe that's something we'll post on the social media there.
You can feel free to do it too.
Perhaps I will.
I went Taker, Andre, Vader, Nash, Hanson, Bam Bam, Brody, Big Show, Kane, Yoko.
Okay.
I mean, it's tough.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's tough to decide what's what.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to the top and it's Taker and it's Andre.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest legends and stars in the sky.
Yeah.
And you know what are you gonna do?
Where do you go with it? Absolutely.
There's no wrong answer.
There really isn't, and I think for any of you guys listening too, if there's anyone we missed, anyone you can think of, let us know. Let us know if there's somebody you can think of.
I would be very much interested if there was a big guy who we didn't mention,
which is totally possible.
Who would potentially belong on the top 10. It could happen.
It could happen. I mean, we didn't mention Giant Silva. Yeah. So,
we were talking about how it could happen.
It could. So, for all you Giant Silva fans out there, we're sorry. But, he was big, though.
He was big.
He was one of the tallest guys ever.
He was big.
But, yeah. But basically, that's what we wanted to cover today, guys. It's been a lot of fun talking about all these different, stars of yesteryear.
I had fun. I hope you guys watching on YouTube. I guess that's a little something we should probably close the show with.
Sure.
Spinebuster Season 1 we did all audibly on podcasts for Blog Talk Radio.
Yep.
This year we're gonna branch out. We're gonna expand our horizons.
Yep.
We at some point will live stream on YouTube.
Yeah.
For all you YouTube listeners at some point in the future. This time we're kind of testing some things out, so that we'll upload the show later.
Yep.
It won't be live.
Right.
But if all goes well and audio checks out, we'll live stream it.
Definitely.
And then I'll give you a chance to interact with us as the show happens.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be really cool. We're excited, to see where this goes.
For our 3 biggest fans.
For our 3 fans out there, we had 6 at the beginning of the show. Where'd the others go?
Well, I can only think of Brooks, Josie, and Rick.
Well, that's true. Well, we're gonna game. We have Josh.
We have Josh.
So
there's. I can't believe I didn't mention Josh.
I mean, gosh, come on, Josh.
Yeah. And Will listens.
Will,
probably. LR. LR will probably listen, maybe.
So, shout out to all you guys who we just mentioned and the ones we didn't.
Yeah, because we don't know yet.
Right. We look forward to
if you follow us on @Spinebuster Show on Twitter, on the Twitter machine, and the same thing for YouTube will be the Spinebuster Show.
The Spinebuster Show.
The Spinebuster Show. That's what it is on the Book of Faces.
The Book of Faces. Yes.
I mean, we're everywhere, and it's Spinebuster all day, baby.
That's right. So, anything else to wrap up with for today?
No!
There we are.
No.
That was a big old no. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. We look forward to hearing from you on the social media. Follow us, all the things Derek just mentioned. As for today, this has been Spinebuster. This is Stone Cold Derek over to my left or right if you're watching
in some direction.
And apart from that, that's all we have for you for today. So we look forward to bringing you another exciting episode of Spinebuster here in a few weeks. Once we get everything uploaded, feel free to leave us comments, suggestions, and
who do you want to hear us profile?
That's right.
We'll take suggestions.
We're gonna keep adding to this Hall of Fame as well, so we definitely want to keep talking about your favorite stars, unless your favorite star is Roman Reigns, and we want to keep on building.
Or Bastion Booger. He may not make the list either.
He may not, but we shall see. We shall see. Hakushi, Josh, any of those. So, anyway, we look forward to being back with you here. And apart from that, my name's Ken.
My name's Derek.
And hey, this has been Spinebuster, and we will see you further up the card.
It's not turning off. Turn off. Psst. Psst. Hey, you. Psst. Psst. YouTube. YouTube, I need you to turn off. YouTube.